About a year ago, the committee decided to publish what I call a chapbook, a small bound book of the works of Annisquam and local artists. We were very fortunate. The first book is, here it is, Ode to Rhubarb by Tom Brooks. And that was last fall.
I have it.
This spring, we are celebrating the poems of Anne Babson Carter, known to all of us as Jill. The beautiful book, and they are in the back for each of you, Such is Grace, the Annisquam Years. Jill is an accomplished poet. Her work has appeared in The Nation, the Paris Review, Theology Today, the Western Humanities Review, among other journals. Her collection of poems, Strike Root, won the Four-Way Book Prize for a first volume of poetry and was published by that press. In addition to Strike Root, Cobb's Barnes was included in the anthology The Poetry of Solitude, a tribute to Edward Hopper. And a second poem, Undivided Measure, was set to music for mixed chorus and organ. A founding member of the Guilford Poets Guild, she has twice been a fellow of the Yaddo Corporation in Saratoga Springs. It's my way of thinking that Jill has chartered her life with her poetry. From Annisquam to Guilford, Connecticut, to New York City, back to Annisquam, and now on to Hanover, New Hampshire, where I know she'll continue to write her poems in her beautiful new home overlooking the Connecticut River. But we all know that the Annisquam poems will forever have a very special place in her heart, as they do now in ours. Jill.
I'm so happy. So happy. Do you realize how rare it is to be able to read what you write and know that it's going to be heard by the people you write about in the place that we all share? That's an incredible experience for me and has made me much more excited about this book than my first one. It's because of you all. So I'm very happy about that, but then I have to tell you, since this is really homegrown, we all know, in the Village Library, you're looking at my three brothers. We have not been in the same place for so many years. So here's my twin. You stand And this is my middle brother David from 67 Leonard Street. And finally, the youngest. The first poem I'd like to read to you, I'm not going to read very many. This is all going to be very short, so you don't have to worry. The first poem I'm going to read is called A Villanelle. And that is a certain kind of form that you use, comes from the Renaissance in France, according to Tom Brooks, who's this expert. So what happens, is page 10, if you have your copy. So what happens is you choose a couple of sentences that you really like, and then you read them somewhat the same all the way down the page. So there's a lot of rhyming that carries you. It's like a wave. And it's great fun to write in form because it forces you to really be exact about what you're writing. So this one, and it was recently actually published, I think, online. No, yeah, online. From Tom Onastis. Off Gloucester, a villanelle. The ocean is out there, a well of deep night, surrounding a bar to command its channel. I hear it give way to the tides before light. Imagine a night without stars or moonlight, a bell riding sightlessly, endlessly swelling. Out there the ocean, the heart of midnight. A symphony in surf at play out of sight, for a village sighing darkly, inwardly dwelling. They hear it give way to the tides at sunlight. Lacquered in black and bathed in moonlight, reversing then surging in rhythmic foretelling, this ocean sighs deep in its long well of night. The seas roar onward to milk-white heights, spume tossed to a turn, sailing parallel lines, as night makes way for a tide at daylight. Awake then, ocean, farewell, fabled night. Morning is breaking on seashell and beach. The ocean is heard in anthem tonight. I hear it give way to the tides before light. Did you hear the rhyme? Did you hear the rhyming? I hope. So, page 17. Do you remember the old joke about prisoners in the penitentiary and they all had the same joke book, but after a while somebody would say, "Number 4," and everybody would laugh. So number 17. This is what comes from living on the cove. For a kingfisher in autumn, stay, bright bird, here in my sight, preen for me in the late remaining light. Black night can't mat the iridescence of a kingfisher in flight. You wear your beauty like a diadem, a jeweled prince prophesying rainbows to ornament our autumn sky. Even now I dream this cove a lagoon, spun of the ochre and madder of Venice, of the cypresses dark and green, reaching to shield your laced embroidered nests. Instead, you dart between the fretwork of New England oak and maple, a flashing note of gaiety among its trunks and branches. Stay, little bird of arabesque, through one more day the length of light. It should always be before you go, a streak of wind above the water to sound what is coming of surrender.
5 ways of looking at spring. To the rest of the world, April is spring, but on Cape Ann, water still freezes. It lies out there like granite slabs bolted in place to discourage 11-year-old hope. Only the sky watercolors in April. With luck, daytime temperatures soar to vamp the sticks at the corner of River Road until their lilac tips, bursting, match my mother's gardening sweater, hanging moth-eaten and forgotten after winter's disuse. This, after months of Ipswich Bay winds gusting in pursuit of a river where it bends towards Gloucester. "Did you hear it howl like mean as icicles last night?" my father would say, as we sat at table in 6 equal intervals. Still, to be April and almost spring, we weren't thinking of degrees, my friend and I. To the beach we raced, yelping to be first, remembering too late that ocean water numbs leg veins black. Only then could spring be said to reach as far north as Annisquam, sturdy outcropping, facing outward since the days of my ancestors who landed on a barge from Salem at the foot of a place we now name Leonard Street.
I'm very privileged to be here to read this poem. I was a general surgeon in Plymouth, Massachusetts from 1972 to 2004. And this poem has to do with an elderly, fragile, 78-year-old woman who came to the emergency room at midnight. I came to see her. She had new onset abdominal pain. Her vital signs were stable and normal. Her x-rays, her lab tests were normal. But on physical exam, I was concerned about her. So I admitted her to the intensive care unit for close observation, and I ordered a CAT scan to be done the very next morning, first thing. The CAT scan showed a large cancer of the stomach, which was in the process of perforating her stomach, and it had spread to the liver. It was an incurable situation for her. So I walked up to the intensive care unit to see her. She had no friends, no relatives. None of the nurses knew her. She was alone. And so I walked into her room, grasped her left hand with my left hand, and she held onto my left hand. And we looked at each other, and I started to tell her what was wrong. She suddenly grimaced and tightened up and was in obvious severe pain, and she had probably perforated the stomach, losing all the gastric acid into the free peritoneal cavity, which was a major injury to her. So I had the nurse give her 10 milligrams of intravenous morphine, a dose that was a large dose for her, but not one that should have killed her. Meanwhile, I was grasping her hand tightly, and her hand was grasping mine tightly, and we were looking at each other, not saying a word. And then she relaxed, she closed her eyes, let my hand go, and stopped breathing. And I had to make a quick decision on what to do. I could have intubated her, put her on a ventilator, taken her to the operating room, reconstructed her stomach, resected most of her stomach, irrigated her peritoneal cavity out, and then committed her to a painful, prolonged post-operative recovery. And even if she survived, she was facing an incurable metastasis in her liver. So I let her pass on. I later told Julie about this patient, and here's the poem she wrote. And I would like to say that I find in Julie's poems that she speaks very powerfully about profound events in our lives. So it's called The Quarry. I learned, you said, what happens rests in a man's eyes. We were walking in silence above the quarries, single file as we always have, when you began to talk about courage, the courage to decide whether a man suffers matters. Coarse bracken and sweet fern, unchanged since childhood, curled at our feet as we moved towards summer's end, and you told me about a patient in whom you found no hope, until his eyes, following your hands, understood and reached for those plains where angels must live. Morphine is quick, you said, and your voice drifting over my head carried notes I'd heard before, clear about purpose, as though in mercy there is purity that exceeds pride, certainly regret. Before us lay the quarries. They were finished and filled with water. In August flinty light, I thought, what do sick people see behind those masks doctors wear? Is compassion visible under glove-like skin, a green gauze gown? For a time on that open ground above Annisquam's coast, a quiet, ancient siblings stretched between us, and I thought, in that other world where everyone is afraid, where chairs are metal, and hard truths wait down long corridors, where most flowers aren't brought from gardens. Would I know you? Would I know the hands and eyes I follow now? High up here, closer to clouds it seems, than the abandoned pits below. Where does courage come from? Is it given out when least expected, to be received unknowingly? The seasons were parting, immovable stones led us on. Yes, you said, it is awful the distance some must travel to die, because we revere law more than pain. I think pain weighs more. Up ahead our car waited beside an old a road once cut decisively for draft horses. Now they too were lost to the sweet fern air, and I thought, had that day been a day like today, with seas high and the grasses dry before noon, did the world throb with insects and the still indiscernible water have no bottom? What happens rests in a man's eyes, you said, and your own as you spoke, with the colors of sun-lasered seas. A doctor has only wisdom, he isn't taught miracles. And then I knew what else is courage, if not trust, where human needs lie deepest. Our way among steps, carved a century ago, had been retraced. Soon autumn rains would begin cooling this place of waist-high weeds.
Jill's poems have one voice, our own. They're marvelous, but I'm privileged to give my voice to one that I like very much. It's one about somebody who loves Annisquam, but as you'll hear at the very last word, Mrs. Annisquam as well. It's on page 11, and it's called A Poet Without a Tale is a Boat Without a Sail. There stood a house on Leonard Street. 'Twas stained a pink, shade too sweet. When the pink too pale did bleach, 'twas like the sand on Lighthouse Beach. When the beach revealed its size, 'twas like a bay embroiled in tides. When the bay sought out Squam Rock, 'twas like the drip of half-heard clocks. When a raindrop runs in runnels, 'tis like a water seeking channels. When a shallow channel freezes, 'tis like a gut shot through with breezes. When breezes hold in pastures low, 'tis like it was so long ago. Then pastures grew lush and true of berries, bay, black and blue, and if blue clouds erase this feat, 'tis time to stop for Squam's sake. Tweet!
And then my brother Tom is going to finish us off, because it's an incredible experience to hear him read my poetry, because he's an actor. And I can't give that up. So let's see. I guess I'll have to read Squared Root, page 15. So in the audience, we have one set of twins, and we have just the single one of two. And then Andrew is a triplet back there. So, Squared Root, and this was so much fun to write. Only half of me is here. I have a twin. I'm a her, and he's a him. For 18 years, we've been unsure. Are we one or are we two? From childhood on, we've each had half of whatever there was to divide by halves. That being said, we're not decided. Is one of us more, the other less? Cosmic differences split our spine. Who got what and who did not? Right brain, left-handed right. exact division, more or less. He trumped biology. I flunked zoology. I chose poetry. He surgery. Did we ever think it odd, these chromosomes loaned from God? Without a doubt, it matters not. We've lived our lives as opposites, yet where it counts, where you can't see, our souls are bound immutably. It's true our names, Jack and Jill, sound absurd to an amateur ear. If such deride, we turn aside. Twins are friends multiplied. Though he is there and I'm here, if things go awry, our thoughts coincide. Over and over, we both know it. In the moment, hold on tighter. Who needs more? We have each other. Why decide if one is two? Addition, subtraction equals us. Twins just are without exception. I'll read my last poem, and it's on the last page. Page 30. Oh, first, I'm sorry. First, I would like to thank the Annisquam Village Library Committee that for publishing my poetry book. I'm sorry David McAvini is not here because he was very much a part of it. I also have to mention someone here who is a saint in his patience. And there is Steve Harris. I want to tell you that here I was in a wheelchair, really pretty down and out and sad. And this is what got me through the winter. And my conversations, we went through 9 drafts of this manuscript. And sometimes it was because I wanted to change only one word. And he was so patient. He never became impatient with me. In fact, he took it on himself to go online and find out what's the difference between the hyphens and the dashes, because I use a lot of them. And so when I talked to him about it, he said, now Jill, hyphens are here and dashes are there. So I think maybe he'll be a poet. But he certainly understands. A time left behind. Simple things surround me now. A sonnet worth of snow, a sun the length of light. Rows and rows of days bent by light. I imagine a heaven beyond sight of my sight, of raindrops forming rivers, cascading, cascading. In a wood beneath high limbs of trees, I lie among violets. They lie still in the lee of memory. Their scent of damps and color of mallow, all thought, still delight. In a silence still as noon hours without a shadow, I remember who I was in a time left behind. 1,000 clocks will strike before my words are done.
I'm in the bad position of having to follow just some great work. And Jack, I mean, he's a surgeon. What the hell does he know about reading poetry? That was just terrific, Jack. I doff my chapeau to you. And Tom, you've been an actor like me for years, so. But this is hard to follow. And Jill reading her own poetry. Wow, that's terrific. It's fun seeing you all, and you look out and just have history. I mean, the history of in this room. I grew up here and following some of you like PD following me, and on it went till Johnny, and everybody here, we following the great Meacham brothers in hockey and on the tennis court, and it is you'll see when I read about Epithalamion that generation after generation. I mean, there it is, you know. And my son, I had a son late, Walker back there, and he followed once again as we go, as you all experience, just about everybody in this room. So that's why I think Jill's poems really speak to all of us. This one is easy for an actor who. There's a difference between reading a script and creating a character and having character truth versus personal truth, right? You know, if you're playing an evil bad guy, well, I got a lot of work to do because I don't think of myself as an evil bad guy. But I'm playing somebody like Tom Babson, I can just play personal truth. Well, this is personal truth, up and down the line, so I should be able to do it. Now, it's my wedding poem. I asked Jill for a wedding present when I married my beautiful bride, Kelly, who's sitting back there next to Walker, in 1991, September 14th. I was quite a bit, you know, past my prime of marrying. Unlike most of you, I think you had at least your first one, you know.
Sweetheart, I wasn't the first.
You're right, sweetheart. Yeah, I wouldn't be the last. Couldn't go through that again. 1991. What does that make me? I was born in '45. What does that make me? When did I? How old? I can't figure it out. What is it?
36.
Yeah.
Older.
Yeah, you guys can't even do the math. I don't feel so bad. But I asked that one thing of Jill. People that were at the wedding, they called it the Babbo Show. Because, I wasn't just going to get married. We were going to put on a show. And we did. We had original music from a friend of mine that was an actor in LA. And I had wonderful Jilly write me a poem. And my niece, Anna, her child, is a minister. And she married us. And so we had a good time. But the hit of the afternoon was Jill's poem, and it's gone through a few iterations. If I got that right, I sometimes can't think of the right word to say, but Jill had put a lot of work into it and read it herself, and it was very moving. And for me and people like great friends growing up, Dudley and Peter and Johnny Bear and everybody, it just spoke to all of us. So here we go. You don't even have to read along. I mean, just try to do it with me. And she makes such wonderful images. Great for actors to have images. You know, some we have to create in order to play the thing. I didn't have to create anything. I mean, they're there. They're just beautiful memories of mine. So, Epithalamion, September 14th, 1991. Take it with you this month. The days escape by the hour. Grasses are greenest. A marsh tallest. And a river, soon to be without its schooners, glides gold, a glittering mirror in the noonday sun. Oh, blue-eyed times, whoa, that barely change from generation. Everything is lacquered yellow, everywhere bees are in full throttle. Marry in September in Annisquam. Who could want for more? Yes, I mean, you take these abbreviating days before they gain tomorrow. Rain at night sweeps beaches clean, a calm claims the pasture. We hear pure melody when after school children talk across Adams Hill Road. And in the privet hedges, insects drone along Leonard Street. Did you know you'd marry, as fall freshens Annisquam, echo the halyards twanging off rhythms to their tin-hollowed masts? From some ledge of memory, September pulls us out. September bears away. Yes, we know, those of us who have had to leave it. Take it with you, and it'll always bring you back. Village of fishers argue from the Atlantic, Cape Ann hamlet cemented to rocks, inherent this New England shelf, then use its strength to build your own. Breathe in this bay of many blues, this autumn mix of low tide. Out beyond the old wharf lot, a kingfisher dives unheeded. Atop Norwood Heights, rose hips harden quickly. These are the accustomed paths gleaned from our growing up, where chains of clematis anchor Astor's and John Egan's land, and a length of cove is flooded by birds. Hold fast, September, to Annisquam. Will you remember the colors of these houses? The tomatoes that ripen on a Union Court porch, while overall a lighthouse watches. Through it all, a river runs concordant with the tides. Marry now, it's September, it's Annisquam.